We are at the very end of a 6-part series on the types of power by French and Raven, sometimes called the power bases. And we're going to look at the 6th and final type of power, informational power. Hey there, welcome back. Alex Lyon here. This channel is called Communication Coach, and we are here for emerging leaders, providing you with professional development, insights, tips, tools, and resources. And we are at the very end of a 6-part series on the types of power by French and Raven. We're going to get into informational power in a second, but I wanted to first define power the way French and Raven do. They talk about it as influence, social influence. So a leader, person A, does or says something to person B, the follower, which makes person B want to change their beliefs, their attitude, or their behavior. And in this case, we're looking at informational power. Sometimes French and Raven call this informational influence, and it's not actually in all of the books that you'll see on this. They sort of added it on a little bit later to the original 5, and really it is a little bit different. So let's look at how this is similar or different than the other. First of all, it's similar because it still has a lot of influence over people. And the leader is in some ways a unique position to have this kind of informational influence. But it's different in almost every other way. So let's first look at the definition. The supervisor carefully explains to the subordinate how the job should be done differently with persuasive reasons why that would be a better and more effective procedure. This becomes informational power and influence when the second part happens, when the subordinate understands and accepts the reasons and changes his or her behavior. So in other words, the influence happens here when I, as a follower, I, as the subordinate, understand what you're saying and get the information, internalize it, and I'm convinced, and then I put those ideas into practice. So this is different than expertise or expert power. With expert power, I don't need to understand medical advice or fully understand the law to realize that, oh, I trust that lawyer or that physician and I'm taking their expert advice and I'm going to do it. Informational power is different. Informational power occurs when I understand the information. I change my mind, I change my behavior based upon my appreciation with the information provided to me, and then I go take action based upon my new understanding. So there's understanding that's involved here, and that's what separates it from expert power. But it's also what separates it from the expert, him or herself. So in the example French, the definition French and Raven, they talk about their supervisor, but really this power can come from anywhere. We're talking about it as leaders, as emerging leaders, and as potential supervisors, but you can get information from anybody and that can have an influence over you. In fact, one of the key distinctions is that this type of power is no longer connected to a person. Once I've understood it on my own, I don't need to go back and clarify it or look for approval or double check with somebody. I understand the information. I've been persuaded on my own. And so in that way, there's no need for surveillance, like coercive power. You require surveillance to keep track of who's complying and who's not, and even reward power to some extent to make sure they've actually done something to earn a reward. But informational influence has nothing to do with surveillance. You simply give them good information and they change their mind or not and put it into practice or not. So there's no surveillance required. And I want to give you an example of a time that this happened to me in a very powerful way. And it really fits this description where the person was detached from me, but I was still very convinced. I once watched a presentation about sugar. This faculty member that I only knew a little bit about gave a presentation about diet and things, but specifically about sugar. And she had a whole bunch of sugar as visual aids, like how much sugar is in an actual Coke can, Coke bottle. How much sugar is in a week's worth of this, a year's worth of it. She had these huge containers, massive containers of sugar, and she gave statistics and information about how much sugar people consume. And then she went into information about how bad sugar was for you. And by the end of this presentation, I had accepted this information, internalized it, and made it my own. And Here's why this is informational power. To this day, I can't tell you the name of that presenter. I can remember her face, and I could probably figure it out if I looked her up, but I really don't remember. She wasn't my supervisor, she didn't have any authority over me, but I was so convinced by the information that it persuaded me to change my mind, to change my behavior. And I really do eat a lot less sugar now and drink a lot less soda now than I did back then. And that's where I want to get to a final takeaway here. Unlike expert power, where we're still connected and dependent upon the expert, informational power has a great appeal to me as an emerging leader because I can become more of an expert, but I can also get better at communicating and spreading those ideas in a variety of ways. So I can, give good visual aids or give white papers on a topic. I can do presentations, and I can convince people of a cause, of a direction, of a kind of decision I think a group could make for themselves or for an organization. And I can have a lot of power, even though I may not be in an official position of authority. And once you're detached from a position of authority, you as an emerging leader can do lots of other kinds of things with good persuasive information. And so that's why French and Raven keep it in there, because it really has a lot of influence, but really it's a world unto itself. And so before we depart, I want to give you two final things to consider. First of all, we're at the very end of this 6-part series. So if you want to look at any of the other videos, we have a video on all the other 6 types that you can check out. And I'll link all of that in the description below. I'll put a whole list in the description below the video. I also want to offer you a free resource. I have created a PDF download on the 5 essential professional communication skills that I believe every emerging leader should get better at. I've compressed that down into a PDF download, and by clicking on that link in the description below, you enter your email through that link, and then I email you that resource. So you're welcome to check that out if that sounds like something that would benefit you. So thanks, God bless, and I will see you sometime soon on the channel in a future video.